Hello there. Today I would like to talk about the labor theory of value and why it's completely wrong. Oh, my son's sucking my teeth. Anyway, you are someone and I'm someone else. And today we're going to be talking about the labor theory of value and why it's completely wrong and why it's completely nonsensical and it makes absolutely no sense. So, we're going to explain what it is, sort of. I'm going to try my best in some context. I'm going to try my best. Talk about the history of how valued products were thought to be valued throughout history. And then talk about what the actual theory of value is. So, the labor theory of value basically says that most, if not all of the work that comes into a product is a result of labor. Which is entirely wrong, but okay. That's what the socialists say. Okay. Now. That was the second theory on what creates value. The first theory was called a cost theory of value. It was founded by Adam Smith and Ricardo, the classical economists, as we call them, before the Marxists stepped in. And the Marxists, or the socialists, or I believe the socialists didn't come up with Marx didn't come up with the labor theory of value, but he was one of the first to really make it really, really popular. But basically, Adam Smith and Ricardo said that that it was a cost theory of value. It's based on the cost of the production. So, what is that? Capital theory of value. And then, of course, Karl Marx argued, no, it wasn't capital that created value. It was labor that created value. And then something very, very wonderful happened. There's a guy named Karl Menger. He's the opposite of Karl Marx. He actually disagrees with Karl Marx. He made a whole paper why he disagreed with Karl Marx. Then he wrote another paper, or maybe he did it before, actually. He probably came up before. He said, why is a diamond more valuable than a bottle of water? If a bottle of water, and again, this is the cost paradox that the classical economists couldn't come up, nor could Karl Marx explain this either. He was the first one to solve it. The only way to figure why does a diamond cost more than a bottle of water? And he figured out it was human reasoning and scarcity that caused the diamond to be more valuable than the labor that it took to get the diamond or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there'd be, diamonds don't really have much of a use. Nowadays they do, but back in the day when he was writing, we didn't really use it for dental instruments. Diamonds weren't really that useful in my opinion. Back in the day anyway. I don't know if they were useful, but Karl Menger realized, hey, diamonds actually for some reason are more valuable than a bottle of water. Everyone seems to like them, and why are they more valuable? Because there's a scarcity. Nowadays, we actually figured out it's an artificial scarcity created by a monopoly in the South African mining company, but we're not going to talk about that. I forgot the name of the company, but it doesn't matter. It's an Afrikanese company. I don't care. I don't speak Afrikaans. But that being said, diamonds are scarce. They're more valuable, and it was a subjective theory of value. There's absolutely no reason that a diamond should be priced the way it is. And the thing is, the labor theory of value, if it was actually true, a diamond being dug up from the ground would be more valuable than a diamond you just find laying on the ground. It took more effort to find a diamond in the ground than it did to have a diamond that's laying on the ground. But the customer doesn't care where it came from. They're going to pay the same price for the diamond regardless of where it came from. So that is why it's called the subjective theory of value. Because if labor actually determined value, right, then you should see that in your products. You should see the fact that there are some diamonds that cost more than other diamonds, but that's not the case. Now, maybe the scarcity overall of diamonds makes the price to go up, which is probably true, actually. And that is probably most likely true. I don't really know a whole lot about the subjective theory of value. That's what it's called, by the way. So cost theory of value is number one, for economics anyway. There was probably labor theory of value beforehand, but cost theory of value was number one. And labor theory of value and subjective theory of value again. And in subjective theory of value, every single economist pretty much agrees except for Marxists. Basically, any Marxist economist disagrees with the subjective theory of value. If you read their stuff, they talk about, humans have value in themselves, so they deserve all this stuff. And they believe that housing and healthcare and food is a human right. The other economists disagree because they say, well, yeah, it might be a human right or a human need, let's just say. It is human needs. But to make it a human right, somebody has to enforce that. And using force upon an economy creates really bad incentives like the Soviet Union or North Korea, where they restrict immigration, the value the needs of their citizens over other people, where their labor force isn't now freed up. Labor force now is forced to work more deadlier jobs because they don't have enough immigrants coming in. And then, the thing is, like, right, we need the bottom rung jobs to be supported, to be employed, so other jobs can flourish. Basically, whenever you have somebody who has a job that no one else wants to do, particularly a group of people that make more money than another group of people, it actually frees up labor for all parties if you have immigration in your country. And it's actually good to have immigration. It actually produces 1.2 jobs to have immigration. So, that being said, right, Marxists use a lot of this labor theory value to restrict a lot of freedoms. And then, of course, they make healthcare, government finance, and they do all this stuff, right? Now, the labor theory value is just wrong. It's just inherently wrong. 100% production is not going because of labor. There's land, labor, and capital. All three of those things, and then, of course, there has to be a demand for it. You could waste all three of those resources and not get anything out of it. The capital is just the expenses you use or the tools you use to produce that product. And capital is so changing in rich economies that it's so impossible to track. It's very hard to grow, very hard to measure an economy's growth. The government numbers are not the real numbers. In fact, in order to measure the economy in real terms, you would have to waste so many resources it wouldn't be worth doing it. That being said, economics we're just guessing. And I'm pretty sure when we're printing money, we're actually just counting that as growth. Because it's very, very hard to count. Okay, how do you count something in dollars? Because dollars are constantly being printed. Maybe they do adjust for inflation, but even our inflation numbers are wrong. People keep lying. Our government keeps lying to us about the inflation numbers and all that stuff. But yeah, it's just, again, labor theory value is completely wrong. Anybody who tells you that 100% production comes from labor, it's not entirely true. You kind of need the customer demand in order to fill up that labor. And subjectively, somebody might want a cheeseburger more than somebody else. And eventually, you find the people who really want cheeseburgers and the people who don't want cheeseburgers, and you find the middle ground of people who are willing to pay the price and people who aren't. And subjectively, like, you have to argue with the store. It's weird. Like, people say when we say subjective theory of value, I don't know exactly what we mean, but we just mean that we value that product because of its scarcity or its human actions, basically what determines voluntary exchange, basically. In Austrian terms, anyway. Every economist agrees with the ideal of they disagree with the labor theory value. It's been disproven since the late 1800s, and the fact that people are still pushing the labor theory value tells you that how wrong is people's perspectives, right? How wrong are people? Like, even school probably pushed the fact that labor is more valuable than anything else. Like, it's just blatantly wrong. And I don't want to just like hate on blue collar workers. I am a blue collar worker myself, right? But just because I work does not mean I'm always producing value. And value and production are two entirely different things as well. How products are valued and how things are produced are two entirely different things. You might produce a bunch of cars, but people don't value those cars. They're entirely two different things. That's a whole nother thing. I have a gripe against one of these stupid socialists. Okay, I don't know if he's a socialist, but he's like he's a unionist. I would say a trade unionist. I don't know if he's a trade unionist for government, although he does seem pretty pro-government. His name is called Robert Reich. If you find him and you bring him to this video and he tries to disprove it, okay, I want him to respond to my video. Robert Reich. He's a Harvard I don't know if he's Harvard, but he's one of these upper Ivy League guys. He makes $400,000 a speech to talk about economics in a misleading way. Very, very misleading. He's a professor of it. Supposedly he's a professor, but he doesn't have an economics degree. And he controlled the Department of Labor during the Bill Clinton administration. And yeah, while I love Bill Clinton, his advisor for the Department of Labor was absolutely dumb. He's not actually that good of an economist. He doesn't understand the long-term effects of economics. He understands the short-term effects of economics, but the long-term effects, he's very, very good at understanding the problems of our economy. But he's very, very bad at the solutions. He has the socialist way of solving them. In fact, he's going to make it way worse. And so if you could bring him to my YouTube channel and respond to every single one of my videos on why I disagree with socialism or why I disagree with the fact that food's a human right or healthcare is a human right. In fact, I'm going to make videos on those. Why democracy is flawed. If you can send Robert Reich to my YouTube channel and have him respond, that would create so much engagement for me. Right? I disagree entirely with what Robert Reich says. I've listened to a lot of Robert Reich, and that guy has misled so many people. I argue on Facebook about people. Like, I shouldn't be arguing on Facebook. It's kind of pointless to argue with people because they're never going to change their mind. But I do it anyway. I'm like, oh, this looks like a talking point from Robert Reich. I'm like, do you watch Robert Reich? And the guy says yes. I'm like, there's your problem. You're listening to Robert Reich. You should be listening to Thomas Sowell. You should be listening to Milton Friedman. They actually understand the long-term effects of economics. They understand Chicagoan economics or Austrian economics based on what kind of economist you are. I am more of the Chicagoan school myself, but, it's pretty clear to me that Mr. Robert Reich is more of a Keynesian/socialist. I would say he's more of a socialist because he's not even really an economist. He just talks about labor like it's an important thing, and he doesn't actually understand what goes into production and value, which is kind of stupid. He doesn't understand the difference between two. He doesn't understand the difference between income and wealth that much, or he does. He misleads people by saying income and wealth are connected, which they're not. You could be a widower and not made any money, and your wealth just came from your husband. Like I don't understand. Robert Reich is so misleading, and he doesn't understand 80% of wealth was generated within the first generation of millionaires. Like, he is such a misleading person. Misleading little snake. So if you could send all these videos to Robert Reich, every single one of them, he's probably the one who would promote the labor theory of value. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. Maybe he does promote the subjective theory of value. If not, maybe I'm wrong. I've never heard him talk about the labor theory of value. But I've heard him talk about trade unions and why they're good, and he never talks about the negatives of trade unions. Maybe if he does, he completely is misled about them. I've seen his 5 myths on trade unions, and he was kind of wrong. I should respond to one of his videos one day. But anyway, you are someone, I am someone else, talking about why the labor theory of value is completely wrong, why supply and demand and the subjective theory of value is what actually causes things to be valued. Goodbye.